Sunset of Time by Albinocorn. Chapter 9 Marauders. Rarity's hooves were caked with dirt. Thanks to her snow-white coat, it was easier to see on her than anything else. Her mane was disheveled. Her face was scruffed up from where she had tripped while fleeing the assaulting griffins. Had a mirror been present, Rarity would have probably smashed it at the sight of her reflection. However, Rarity's mind was not on her appearance. Instead, she was thinking of the survival of herself and Fluttershy, so to try to outrun the hunting griffin overhead. The two managed to successfully avoid running into any trouble until the rock spiral had collapsed. They proceeded towards the demolition site, hoping to find some of their scattered friends, only to be cut off by a gleeful Eliza. "Oh look, 2 more ponies to murder!" Rarity and Fluttershy had quickly taken off into the other direction. Eliza let out a delighted screech and shot into the air, keeping the 2 ponies within their shadow at all times, laughing as they tried to flee to safety. Rarity picked up a rock with her magic and flung it over her shoulder. Her aim went wide and missed Eliza by a good distance. Eliza responded in turn by pulling out one of her knives and hurling it towards their prey. Rarity watched from the corner of her eye as the tougher her mane fell away from her knife, the knife embedding itself into the ground a few inches from her hoof. She let out a terrified scream and ran faster, Fluttershy close behind. They came around a bend, only to find a wall of rock at the end of their path. Rarity slid to a stop and turned around, only to have Eliza drop out of the sky in front of her. Rarity began taking large steps backwards, Fluttershy clinging to her, shaking in fear. "Rarity, what do we do now?" Sadly, Rarity didn't have an answer for her. She wasn't good at advanced magic like Twilight was. Sure, she could handle herself in the fight, but these griffins were armed and specifically trained for combat. All Rarity could do was keep backing up until she and Fluttershy were practically against the wall, mice trapped by a sneering cat. Eliza pulled out the rest of her knives, grinning madly. "Now then, which one of you should I kill first? The sniveling coward?" She eyed Fluttershy, or the ugly hag. She ran her knives to the air, pointing at Rarity. "Ugly." Rarity's eyes twitched. "You would call a lady ugly to her face?" Her voice was unevenly useless and barely above a whisper. A spark of fury flashed in her eyes and began grinding her teeth together. Fluttershy instinctively took 2 steps to the side. Rarity's horn lit up, and the ground around her trembling and cracking as stones and pebbles of all sizes teared themselves free of flying at Eliza. "Let's see if anyone thinks you're pretty when you look like Swiss cheese!" Rarity roared, peppering Eliza with sharp stones. The knives clattered to the floor as Eliza raised her arms to shield her face, while she continued to fly and pelt her, cutting past her feathers and digging to her skin. She covered the front with her wings, trying to block the oncoming hail of stones. Rarity refused to let up her assault. It was not only retaliation for the scathing comment Eliza made, but her only means of defense. Fluttershy wanted to be helpful, picked up a few rocks of her own, and began timidly throwing them at Eliza. They weren't as powerful as Rarity's magically propelled projectiles, but one could occasionally make it over Eliza's wings and her head with a satisfying thud. Unable to fight back, Eliza took to the sky, squawking in anger and pain as rocks continued to fly after her. Behind her was a trail of torn feathers and drops of blood. Rarity didn't stop until Eliza was a speck in the distance. The ground in front of her had transformed into a gaping depression that stretched down for several feet. Rarity held a hoof to her forehead, and swooned, falling against Fluttershy. "Dear me, that took more energy than I thought," Rarity mumbled. Fluttershy supported her friend with a comforting wing. "Are you all right?" "Oh yes, I'll be fine. Just a little windy is all. The only time I cast magic close to that caliber is when I'm in my workshop, and I've never used it for such brutish monsters before." Rarity sighed and pushed herself back into her own legs. She ran a hoof through her mane and began to pout after seeing her signature front curl missing. "That horrid bird completely destroyed my mane. She's not going to be throwing rocks. That's all I did to her. Why, if I ever see her again, I'll—" Rarity?" Rarity meekly interrupted. "I think we should move. At least there are more of them around." Rarity took a pause for thinking of all the ways she could enact revenge for her damaged hair to regard for Fluttershy's concern. She was right. There were more griffins close by. Rarity wasn't sure she could repeat her rock barrage without overexerting her magic. "You're right, Fluttershy. We should help and find our friends so we can get out of this infernal desert." More than anything, Rarity craved for a hot shower and some food. Her stomach gave a low rumble in agreement. Let's just hope we all tooth off this civilized season. By the way, Rarity, satisfied with this? Yes, I am. Thank you so much for this. I feel so much better. I just hope the author's got something for me to do. I really do. Rarity led Fluttershy out of stone alleyway. It was immediately bowled over with heavy force. Rarity rolled to the assailant a few yards before she landed on her backside, blindly flinging her hose in front of her. Unhood me this instant, you barbarian! I have a black belt! Rarity quit it! A voice drawled. Only her eyes, Rarity saw Applejack looking down at her with a surly expression. She was covered in small cuts and bruises, and Rarity could see a few red marks that looked like they come from a hoof rather than claws. Causing her to blush. Applejack! Oh my goodness, forgive me. I thought you were someone else. Applejack untangled herself from Rarity and stretched herself out. Well, I guess I should apologize for running into you. You gotta come from nowhere and kinda surprised me. Rarity stood up, not bothering to dust herself off. It didn't matter at this point. She was filthy and unkempt, and only a shower and a spa could help her now. We got this. I'm just glad to see a friendly face. Rarity! Fluttershy! For the second time in what could have been more than 2 minutes, Rarity found herself being tackled by a fast-moving object. Only this time she was lifted into the air instead of being dragged into the dirt. She was 10 feet off the ground, locked into an embrace with Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash. I'm glad you girls are all right, Rainbow said, hugging them tightly. Likewise, Rainbow, but you know Fluttershy and I can handle ourselves in a pinch. Oh, Rainbow knows. I know, but I know certain authors who don't. As a matter of fact, some authors won't even let Fluttershy be a medic. As a matter of fact, neither will some rippers. You may think I'm kidding, but no, seriously. Some of my rippers think it's a stereotypical cliche to have Fluttershy be a medic and a healer. Because that's stereotypical, is to have the girl who's shown herself to be a medic, proven herself to be a medic, and has shown that she's kind and actually good enough to be a cleric, to be a medical. I don't understand these people. It's like they refuse to have people be smart, intelligent, and healers. Rainbow lowered them down to the ground, and Sunset Shimmer tried to join them. I know you can't. Randy saw Rainbow and Sunset Shimmer look. It's been a really crazy day, and I'm sure glad you guys are all fine. Rainbow finished, giving one more tight hug to Rarity and Fluttershy. Randy could tell something pretty terrific had happened to shake up Rainbow, enough for her to wear her heart on her sleeve. Rarity wanted to acquire what, but decided against it. Perhaps some things are just best left unsaid. Well, as always, I'm glad to see all of you as well. Rarity's eyes landed on the cut running across Rainbow's forehead. Though not as hale and hearty as I could hope. Applejack cuffed. Send the trained mercenaries after us. This Vesperker real in Millie's business. Fluttershy gasped. Oh no, you wanted to kidnap Twilight. Has anybody seen her? Or Pinky and Spike for that matter? There was a sound like cannon fire, and a plume of dust sneaked to the sky from some of the rocks nearby. No, but I think I know where we can find them, Sunset said, a small spark on her face. Twilight didn't enjoy fighting, and there was a reasonable solution that could be found without resorting to violence. And wasn't to say she was a pacifist. She knew combat spells, dozens of them. After the changeling invasion, she had doubled her studies on the subject, with Celestia's permission, of course. If there was a peaceful solution to the problem, she tried to take it. However, that hardly seemed to be the case at the moment. After Rainbow had dropped Pinky onto the griffin that had been stalking her, Twilight hit him with a simple but powerful blast spell. Pinky had jumped off, leaving him to be thrown backwards across the dirt. From atop Twilight's back, Spike gave a cheer of victory, only to have the griffin back up, drawing a large knife. Twilight tried a powerful stun spell, but the griffin thrust at her with amazing speed, catching her off guards. She jumped back as he slashed at her, balancing Spike and forcing him off her back. He fell to the ground, quickly scampered to his feet. Watsy as Twilight casted minor spells and bounced off the Griffin's sharpened knife. Come on, Twilight, you can take him! Spike cheered. Twilight knew he was right, but she was having a hard time concentrating on high-level spells with a knife being swung at her. It was a loud popping noise. Twilight's vision was filled with bright colors and flakes of paper as wild confetti and streamers smashed into the Griffin's side, sending him back into the ground. Looking over, Twilight saw Pinky standing with her party can, a proud smile on her face, while smoke trailed out of the can's mouth. Twilight returned to smile before turning back to her dazed point. Igniting her horn, Twilight watched as the streamers came to life, wrapping their prey in a thin cocoon. She stopped and admired her handiwork. Spike and Pinky coming over to her. Well, your girl's got good, Spike said. Before Twilight could thank him, the air was filled with the sound of shredding paper. The trio took a step back, watching as the confetti egg fell apart, the Griffin emerging like a baby chick. Twilight inwardly face off. Right, dreamers tend not to make the best presents. She charged a sleep spell, but the Griffin moved once again with ferocious speed, leaping from his place on the ground and grabbing Twilight by the horn, disrupting her magic. He tossed her towards the canyon wall, where she slammed to it with her side, several sharp pains running through her body. As she get up, something heavy landed on top of her, knocking her from the lungs. Twilight heard Pinky whimper in pain before Spike's voice reached her ears. Hey, leave him alone! Twilight craned her neck in time to see Spike let out his emerald green flames, sizzling the Griffin's tail. Boo! What? I'm sorry. More stuff happened, guys. My apologies, but I'm forced to boo every time Spike ever does anything helpful. I'm sorry. Habit with me. It's not this Fix's fault. Blame the years of reading Fix where Spike takes over being the main character and starts being the superhero badass that tends to win every single fight. Okay, Fick, it's not you, it's them. I am forced to boo Spike every time he does something useful. I'm sorry, Spike. Continue trying to have your big damn heroes moment. The Griffin yelled and quickly battered the flames before retrieving the knife he had dropped. All right, you fast rot! Brandishing his reclaimed weapon, he advanced towards Spike, whose cheeks began to bulge, a precursor to the second flame spout of fire he released. However, instead of steering its target, the flames coalesced into a ball of smoke before turning into a scroll, which was shortly cut in half with the flick of his knife, said scaring on the wind. That wasn't supposed to happen, Spike said with a nervous squeak, as Cecilia gave him an unamused look before bringing the blade down. Spike flinched, twisting his body and raising his arms in a final defense. No! Twilight screamed, forcing Pinky off her back, but the blade had already fallen. There was a sound of metal striking against metal, and the Griffin's knife rebounded off of Spike, unbalancing the mercenary, causing him to stagger back. Spike blinked and looked up at the Griffin's stunned face. He looked down to the side where the knife had struck him, only to see a tiny scrape no bigger than a paper cut. Phew! Thank goodness for thick scales, Spike breathed. Boo! Again, I really gotta get over my Spike prejudice. Pinky got out a similar sigh of relief from a place on the ground. Twilight, however, was not so satisfied. She could hear the blood roaring in her ears as the magic surging through her entire body. Her breath came out in furious snorts, and her eyes became eclipsed with pure magic, glossing them with white light. Lightning danced around her horn, crackling intensity as pure energy converged to the tip, building it into a bright sphere of light. A ray of magic burst forth and struck the Griffin from his side, before he could fully realize what was happening. There was a blinding flash of light, the sound of a knife clattering to dirt. When the light faded, where the Griffin had once been was an armadillo, looking quite terrified. A purple aura wrenched itself on the ground, lifting it high into the air. Her eyes still white with fury, Twilight slammed the armadillo into the hard-packed earth. You! She lifted it up and brought it back down. Don't! She slammed it into the wall. Ever! She brought it to the other wall. Touch! She lifted Pinky's cans over. Ham! She forced the armadillo into a ball and shoved it into the cannon mouth, aiming at the black wall. There was a loud blast of an actual cannon, and a large crater appeared at the cliff face, the armadillo at its center. Under a flicker of purple light, the armadillo vanished, replaced once more by a griffin. You guys don't see it, but right now I am smiling like a total geek at this scene. There's the twilight I've been missing from these fics. Hey, you try suffering through this a couple of times and not see if you don't need a badass Twilight moment once in a while. Also, I'm totally thinking of Garble in this scene. This is making me happy. Twilight allowed her anger to cool before she rushed over to Spike, wrapping him in a tight embrace. Oh, sweet Celestia, I'm so glad you're okay, Spike. Twilight tenderly nuzzled his cheek, a few tears escaping her eyes. Spike returned to the hug and earnest, but said, Twilight, it was awesome! Do it again! Pinkie gave an uncertain look towards the crater. Is Gummy okay? The griffin gave a feeble twitch. Twilight lifted Spike onto her back, moving away from the demolition site. He'll be fine, she said passively. She stopped out and looked down, feeling a twinge of guilt in her stomach. Probably. Twilight! Pinkie! Spike! Turning her back, Twilight was delighted to see her friends running toward her, though some of that joy had diminished when she saw the bruises on them. Still, Twilight found herself in the middle of a large group hug, swaying all her concerns. Her friends were all safe. Wildly, Sugar Cube! Applejack says, the group broke apart, her eyes landing on the crater. Don't tell me you did that! She pressed a smart crutch onto her face. Twilight gave in a non-committal shrug. Yeah, but it was justified. He tried to hurt Spike and... He did what? Rarity cried, raising it in her face. That's Brit! A purple aura wrapped around Rarity's tail and held her back. Don't worry, Rarity. I think he's learned his lesson. There was a loud cry of an eagle split the air as Racer and Eliza flew overhead, both of them carrying an injured crew member. The latter was covered in number cuts and abrasions, giving her a modern appearance. Twilight grimaced as she spotted the griffin Eliza was carrying was missing half a leg. Razor swooped down and peeled the last of his teammates from the wall, swinging him over her shoulder. All right, you brats. You got lucky this time. But next time, I swear your heads will be decorating my cabin. If the desert doesn't kill you first, that is. With a final cry, the griffins jetted off, leaving the ponies alone in the dry desert. Yeah, that's right. You better run! Rainbow called after him. Next time, think twice before messing with us. Please don't antagonize him, Rarity said meekly. Flashlight said meekly. Rainbow scratched the back of her head. Right, sorry. Applejack breathed a sigh of relief. Well, I don't know about you girls, but I could use a drink right about now. Blakey, where are our canteens? Pinkie blinked and tapped a huff against her chin. I had the for safekeeping. Applejack raised an eyebrow. Leave them where? She said slowly. By a rock. There was a collective groan from the rest of the group. Don't worry, I know this rock, sillies. Just fine. Pinkie hopped along the stone floor, leading everyone out of the cabin. Twilight sighed, but a smile made her way onto his face. It's good to be together again. Luckily for everyone, Pinkie had an excellent memory when it came to where she hid anything. The group had found the canteens hidden behind a small group of rocks, near where the first attempt to hide from the griffins. There were 3 in total. Everyone took turns drinking out the first one until it was empty. After that, Sunset and Twilight decided it was best to try and conserve as much water as possible, as any spell to add more water to the supply was going to be difficult under the circumstances. Everyone now sat in the shade of one of the tall cliffs, some of them sharing details of the battles that each had just gone through. Sunset and Rainbow joined in, however both of them, along with Applejack, decided it was best not to mention the time travel escapade. The sun was in its decline now, sinking in the afternoon sky. The temperature slowly waned with the ebbing light, and a cool breeze began to blow through the rocky area, much to the party's relief. There had been a moment of calm relaxation and reflection after everyone had finished their stories. Fireside spoke up, asking the question that was no doubt on everyone else's mind. So does anyone know how far we are from Las Pegasus? Sunset leaned against a rock and sighed. Honestly, I don't think we're even halfway there yet. So you're studying the geographical maps of Equestria. It's gauging the area of the Equestria with the amount of distance he had already walked. Sunset knew they were somewhere in the heart of the desert, meaning they still had a lot of ground to cover. Reba nodded in grim agreement. Yeah, when I was high up in the sky, I could see the Las Pegasus Hills, and I was pretty high up. Unfortunately, this only served to dampen everyone's morale. Twilight loosed a breath, wanting to prepare for me. Well, I guess we'll just have to get up early and try to get there as fast as possible. Animal sat up straight. Wait, tomorrow? Why don't we just start right now? Because this is probably the only form of shelter between here and the city. Otherwise, we'll just be sleeping in sand, Twilight explained. Yeah, that's a good point. Abzak slumped down next to Rainbow. No, seems reasonable, but it just feels like we lost a whole day. Then we have to spend most of tomorrow walking the rest of the way. By the time we get there, Vesper Radiance could be long gone. Rarity crossed her hooves. You almost have to hand it to her. She certainly knows what she's doing. Sunset huffed, flicking a pebble across the dirt. Let's not start giving out compliments to the mayor who's trying to kill us. She closed her eyes, resting her cheek on the hoof. This is exactly what I was trying to avoid. We're falling behind now. As he gets the Tempest Crown, we may never catch up. Sunset could almost hear Vesper's soulless giggle playing in her ears. Do you think Princess Celestia knows we never made it? Fluttershy asked. Twilight faced up. Spike burnt up a letter during the flight, but it got damaged and lost. I promised her I'd send her a letter when we got to Las Pegasus, and since I never did, she must know we're in some kind of trouble. But we don't have anything to use to send a message back to her, Spike said dejectedly, tracing a claw in the dirt. Unless one of you girls has a piece of paper on them. They all shook their heads and sunk further into the dirt. Well, unless Princess sends another letter, guess we're on our own, Abzak said. They all sat against a rock, contemplating their circumstances, watching the shadows grow longer as the day came to an end. When Rarity inquired about what they would do for dinner, no one had the heart to answer her. The sun hit the horizon, and the ponies stood up to make camp for the night. It was a difficult feat. They cleared the space of any tiny rocks they could would have suitable bedding on the hard ground, once they placed in a circle. Twilight used her magic and created a fieldless fire to contain in the boundary of rocks. While the daytime brought an oppressive heat, the night was the exact opposite. A frigid gale surrounded Spike and the ponies, keeping them as close to the fire as they could get. Twilight's enchanted flame kept the wide perimeter warm against the cold night, but the girls couldn't help but shiver when the wind whipped across their coats. Growling stomachs made most of the conversation that night. 8 bellies rumbled with want for food which none of their owners could appease. Tired, hungry, and feeling rather dejected, everyone decided to call it an early night, save for Rainbow, who volunteered to keep an eye out in case the bloodthirsty Griffins returned. Applejack offered to take up a shift after her. Piggy volunteered to help as well. They gathered in a circle around the campfire, trying to get to a suitable sleeping position on the uneven earth. Sunset picked a spot next to Twilight, lying down on her back, Hourglass resting on her chest. The Spike and Pinky snoring was anything to go by. Sunset knew most of her friends were already asleep. Turning her head, Sunset saw Twilight lying her back as well, staring up at the bright stars hanging in the sky. Hey, Twilight? Sunset said softly. Twilight turned her head. Yeah? I just want to say I'm sorry. Twilight frowned, looking puzzled. Sorry? What for? Sunset wasn't entirely sure herself. She just felt like it was something that needed to be said. She worked her mouth, trying to put her uncertain thoughts into words. I don't know, I just feel like part of this is my fault. I dragged you all into this. Sunset, don't be ridiculous. We will have to deal with this sooner or later. I think it's better we're trying to stop things now than not knowing about it until the last minute. Give us a chance to make things better. I know you're right, again. Sunset sighed. I just feel if it weren't for me, y'all wouldn't be stuck here in the desert. The stomach gave a loud growl with no food. Twilight laid a huff. Don't worry, we'll make it out of here. We've been in worse situations before. Rose stomach gave a growl. Though I'll admit, I think in most of those situations, we had food. Both of them started laughing, trying to keep their voices down, not to wake their sleeping friends. After they finished, Twilight said, "Hey, Sunset, I have a question. Hmm? Well, about your special talent. You said it took years of training to master it. I was wondering, who trained you?" "You did," Sunset said, like it was the most casual thing in the world. Twilight raised her head up. "I did? How could I train you? I don't know how to tap into the sun's power." Sunset shrugged. "Well, I guess you learned sometime between now and then, because you taught me everything I know." Sunset turned on her side, giving Twilight her full attention. "Why do you sound so surprised?" "I don't know. I thought it was something only you could do." Sunset shook her head. "Any unicorn can do it, Twilight. Granted, it's difficult. Very difficult. But it isn't impossible. That's why it's my special talent. It just comes easier for me." Sunset paused, putting an example together. "It's like Pinky. Her special talent is throwing parties to make ponies happy, right?" "Right," Twilight nodded. "Well, any pony could do that. So he just really does it well and enjoys doing it." Sunset spotted a rainbow soaring overhead, though I doubt there are many ponies who could pull off a sonic rainbow. Regardless, your special talent is magic. You could probably learn what I do in a heartbeat." There was a pause before Twilight asked, "Do you think you could teach me?" "Twilight, do you realize the paradox you are asking for? If Sunset teaches you, then you'd be the one passing the lessons you learned from Sunset onto your student Sunset. Which means that if you send Sunset back in time to complete the closed loop, then Sunset will be learning from you, her learning from her, which means she does not herself." "Doctor, give me a little advice here. Just go with it. It's all just nothing more than a big wibbly-wobbly ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff." "Thank you, Doctor." She saw Twilight nod fervently. "I'm flattered, Twilight, but I don't know if I'm the teaching type." "Well, come on, Sunset. Be kind of poetic." Twilight half joked. "You can teach me, so I can teach you in the future." Sunset smiled, rolling onto her back again. "Sure, why not? After this is all over, before I go home, I'll give you some lessons." Twilight didn't answer for a while. Now that I think about it, I haven't been making as many Doctor Who jokes I could with all this.
"Indeed. Nor have you been making some other jokes."
Dude, maybe like he's just waiting to get to all the possible time travel gags he can get. I just realized how many time traveler jokes I know I can actually make.
Indeed you can.
Doesn't make it start to sleep. She did speak again. It was quieter, with worry. "Sunset, what exactly happened last time? Do you know?" Letting out a slow breath, Sunset shifted on her back, trying to get more comfortable. The conversation was about to take a solemn turn. The least Sunset could do was not feel like she was lying on cement. The history books are pretty fake, really. Professor Radiance just showed up out of nowhere and attacked Canterlot. She hurt Princess Celestia and Luna pretty bad before you and everyone else showed up and led her away. Why?" Twilight squirmed a little, using her wings as a cushion against the hard ground. "I just had a thought. What if this is how everything went last time? What if you coming back didn't change anything, and we're just playing into destiny? The Cloudsdale Library was still around in my future. It's horrible that it's gone now, but it's proof. Proof that we're changing history." Twilight finished. "Destiny isn't set in stone," Sunset said, surprised by the strength of her own conviction. "Anything can change." When Twilight didn't answer this time, Sunset looked over and found she had fallen asleep. "Sweet dreams, Twilight." Sunset looked back up at the ocean of stars above her. "We're all free to choose our own path, and in turn help the world choose its path. I'm going to help create a better future, one Vesper Radiance won't be a part of." She clutched the hourglass lying against her and held it up over her head. The sand and all gathered in the bottom above, pressing against the glass. Looking at it, Sunset couldn't help but smile. Today, she had proven it can work more than once. While her plan had been dangerous, half thought out, consisted mostly of luck. It was just the very fact she'd been able to time travel again gave her hope. She could still go home, back to her friends, back to her parents, back to Princess Twilight. Though she supposed staying here in the present wouldn't have been a bad thing at all. In fact, she could get used to living in Ponyville. It was quiet, quaint, and full of friendly ponies. Not to mention all of the time she would get to spend with Twilight and everyone else. No, my place is back in the future, Sunset decided. They'll all still be here. You can always reminisce about old times. The figure quickly flashed across the clear surface of the hourglass, jolting Sunset into an upright position. She twisted about, trying to see if anyone was behind her, but everyone was accounted for and was on the ground asleep. She peered back into the hourglass, hoping to catch another glimpse of the apparition. It looked an awful lot like. Sunset glanced over at Twilight, who was snoring peacefully. Shaking her head, Sunset laid back down, closing her eyes. Time for bed. Before you start hearing voices again. She shuddered, grateful that hers was the only voice occupying her mind.